So as I mentioned before, my name is Gabriel Gasque, and I am head of outreach at Protocols.io. I'm really happy to be here presenting this introduction to Protocols.io. And before I begin, let me briefly introduce myself. I have a background in experimental neuroscience. I did a PhD and then postdoctoral training. And before joining Protocols.io as head of outreach about 2 years ago, I was a senior editor in PLOS Biology, which is the flagship journal of the Public Library of Science. I consider myself a scientist, as well as an advocate for open science, experimental reproducibility, and research integrity. So what you see on the screen right now is the agenda for today's conversation. I will speak for about 40 to 45 minutes, leaving time at the end for questions, which you don't have to wait. You can start typing those questions in the chat or in the Q&A window of Zoom at any moment, and we will get to them at the end of my presentation. So in this webinar, we will go over some of the more general points in terms of the motivations for creating Protocols.io's platform, what the mission of the company is, and how our platform and tools can make your work easier and faster, both in the research lab and in the classroom, as well as to increase the reproducibility both inside and outside your own laboratory. And although I will be sharing a lot of information, we will not have time to go over all the details of the different functionalities of the platform. For that reason, at the end of my presentation, I will share with you some resources that you can browse for more information. But let's begin with what Protocols.io is. So Protocols.io is a virtual platform for the collaborative development, sharing, and publication of detailed, up-to-date, and reproducible experimental protocols before, during, and after publication of a research article. And we have collected a series of tweets that comment on the difficulties and frustration of trying to replicate previously published experiments. And as you can read in this example, Daniel goes from reference to reference, trying to understand how certain devices in a paper from 2017 were fabricated. And when he finally reaches the original publication from 2009, Materials and Methods simply says, devices were fabricated with conventional methods. And this is just an example that highlights a widespread problem, which is very often the information reported or included in the materials and methods sections of published articles is insufficient to allow readers to understand what was done and to reproduce the experiments. In the same fashion, as part of the background on why we created Protocols.io, we also like to mention the Cancer Biology Reproducibility Project, which was a $1.5 million initiative coordinated by the Center for Open Science and by Science Exchange, with the goal of trying to independently replicate almost 200 experiments from about 50 high-profile papers on cancer biology. And we're talking about Cell papers, Science papers, Nature papers. What the Reproducibility Project researchers discovered very soon after the project began is that it is very difficult to replicate previously published work. And there are several reasons why this is the case, but one of them is that the original researchers didn't document in their articles with enough detail what they did and how they did it. So what you see on the screen right now is a Center for Open Science website that summarizes some of the results of the Cancer Biology Reproducibility Project. And as you can see, of the 193 experiments that they tried to replicate from 53 papers, 0% of the protocols in these papers were completely described. 0%, which made it impossible to reproduce them without contacting the original authors. Furthermore, when researchers from the reproducibility project contacted the original authors, they also discovered that these original authors did not always could tell how their own experiments had been done. Therefore, the problem of lack of reproducibility goes beyond the lack of adequate reporting in published articles, but also highlights deficiencies in the way researchers keep record of their own experimental protocols for housekeeping. And this is caused, among other reasons, because people move from labs. Students graduate and leave, postdoctoral researchers become faculty elsewhere, and so on. And traditional paper notebooks can be damaged, easily misplaced, and lost, and are difficult to search to find the most up-to-date version of a protocol. That's why we thought that creating a cloud-based platform for the appropriate storage, sharing, and publication of digital protocols was needed. And generally speaking, protocols.io comes in two flavors. We have a completely free open access repository, which provides unlimited publishing of protocols. Each of these public protocols will receive a unique digital object identifier, or DOI, making them permanent and citable. It is thus free to create an account in protocols.io and to publish an unlimited number of protocols. Because the repository is open access, it is equally free to come and read, use, and reuse the public protocols. On the other side, we also have premium accounts that offer everything the free plan offers, plus an unlimited number of private protocols and workspaces, premium training, and for the institutional accounts, a free protocol import service. And that is our business model. We make the open access completely free, but we charge institutions to take advantage of the private space. So if you're interested, you can find more details about our plans at protocols.io/plans/academia. And I will explain later on what workspaces are, which I have briefly mentioned, and how the protocol import service works. Some of you might belong to an institution that has a partnership with protocols.io, and therefore your account could potentially be premium. To check that, you have to follow the steps that I will show you in this movie. So you go to protocols.io/for-institutions, you scroll down, select, check if your organization already has a premium account, and search for your organization or university. And if you are faculty or a student within any of these institutions, your account should be premium. If that is not the case, please drop us an email. I will share my email with you at the end of my presentation. But I want now to discuss why we think it is productive, time-saving, and rewarding to create, share, and publish detailed experimental protocols, in addition to fostering reproducibility in the field. And the key message that I want to convey is that practicing open science, including or most prominently open methods, is beneficial for the practitioner as much as it is for the extended community. So let me begin by showing how the protocols created and published in protocols.io go beyond what a traditional static PDF offers. These protocols are live, dynamic, and interactive documents, yet persistent and citable. So let me open one of the public protocols created and published in the platform to show you how they look like. Because this protocol has been published, it has a DOI assigned. The protocol is written in a detailed recipe-like step-by-step fashion. Different sections of the protocol can be coded in different colors, creating a table of content, which I can navigate. The protocol can be supplemented or enriched with images, pictures, and even videos. The protocols are easily versionable, and I can navigate between different versions of the protocol. These are interactive documents because anyone can come and post a comment or a question, and the authors will be notified. It is very easy to create your own editable copy or fork to optimize the protocol according to your own needs. And the protocol as a dynamic document can be run directly from the computer or tablet. So instead of having a hard copy of my protocol, I can just let the platform guide me in following the steps. I can mark each step as done. If I realize that I made a mistake or notice something unusual, I can add a comment. Which I can post. And at the end of the run, I can save the run as an independent file, keeping a record of that day's experiment. I can save it, but I won't do that now. So let me go back to my presentation. And while there's a historical bias in favor of protocols in biomedicine, the platform itself is agnostic to the subject area of research, and researchers have begun using it to develop, share, and publish protocols beyond the wet molecular lab. On this slide, I show you 3 examples of protocols, one for archaeology, one for computational biology, and another one for clinical research. But you can extrapolate the idea to your specific area of research. So again, let me open one example. This is a protocol for archaeology that documents a method to graphically depict lithic tools. Again, as I mentioned before, the protocols are versionable, and there are several versions of the protocol. I can create my copy or fork. The protocol is written in a detailed step-by-step fashion to make it clearer. The author has created images and pictures to enrich the protocol. And again, I can run it directly from the computer. Now, let's discuss why we think it is rewarding to create and publish these detailed experimental protocols. So not necessarily in order of importance, but a first advantage of making your methods public is that by using specialized repositories like protocols.io to publish these protocols, you are increasing the chances that your methods will be discovered and reused, which should lead to more credit and recognition. So let me use here another example taken from Twitter. So you can see a tweet from a researcher who was looking for a protocol for RNA extraction from primary cortical neurons in culture. Someone answered this tweet and recommended a protocol that is in protocol.io. But this protocol was actually part of a paper that was published in the journal GigaScience. But the paper was about a fish parasite. So the chances of researchers working on primary cortical neurons in culture of finding a paper on a fish parasite as a means of finding a method that would work for them seemed really slim. But because the protocol was published independently in a specialized repository, it made the method more discoverable and increased the chances of people reusing it. So protocols.io was created or launched in 2014. We currently have over 130,000 registered users who have created over 14,000 public protocols and over 53,000 private protocols. The public protocols are all open access, which means they are fully searchable and free to read, use, and reuse. And last year alone, our protocols had over 2 million readers. Once a protocol is published, the document has a tab that is called metrics that shows in real time all traffic and use of the protocol, including number of views, bookmarks, exports, copies, comments, and citations to this protocol. Another reason to make your protocol public is to guarantee preservation and to facilitate seamless continuity of the work inside your lab. As we have discussed, a large fraction of a lab personnel is floating. Students graduate and leave, postdoctoral researchers become faculty elsewhere, and so on. Publishing your protocols makes them a persistent citable object that will be permanently stored in your workspace as well as in the open access repository. And I should mention that all private and public content of protocols.io is mirrored and backed up in Clocks, GitHub, and the Internet Archive. And public sharing of protocols also increases the chances of establishing collaborations, as we have seen cases where researchers report that this is the case. And I would like to show to you now how the common functionality of the platform allows an open, scholarly, and productive discussion between all parties interested in a particular protocol or method. So in this case, again, we're looking at a public protocol, and I see a key that is called comments. So any reader can come, click here, and you can see the back and forth between users of these protocols and the creator. This is all public, and you can see or you can imagine how can these scholarly collaborative discussion could potentially lead to collaborations. And managing and publishing your protocols should also simplify your work down the road when the time of submitting a paper comes. Let me use another example from Twitter. Here we have Professor Kipnis at the Washington University in the USA tweeting saying, what if labs publish each of their unique methods or protocols, and in future papers, instead of rewriting the protocols, we just cite them. We waste so much time on methods by saying the same thing differently. And that is exactly what protocols.io is about. So you can publish your protocols in the open access repository, obtain DOIs, and cite these protocols in your paper or papers over and over again. So you never have to write detailed method sections again. And this is what the authors of this PLOS Biology paper did. They created, deposited, and published their protocols in protocols.io, obtaining a citable DOI, which they included in the materials and methods section, replacing most of the writing. Now the reader, by following the link, has access to the detailed step-by-step protocol in protocols.io. And a really nice thing about how protocols.io works is that the protocols, as I mentioned before, are versionable. So if the authors have updated their protocols since the time of publication, their reader will be notified. And they can choose to read the protocol as it was published, which is the version we're seeing now, or by following the View the New Version link, have access to the most updated version of that protocol. And a fifth point would be that by managing, preserving, and archiving your protocols in protocols.io, you will be compliant with the NIH data management and sharing policies, because methods are an integral part of data. And the NIH rigor and reproducibility guidelines also explicitly highlights the need for grant applicants to describe details in their applications, which should be considered by reviewers. And as a bonus, by practicing open science, and particularly open methods, you increase reproducibility in the field, which is, you can see, as a gift to your colleagues and to the extended research community, but you also increase reproducibility and robustness of research inside your own lab, which you can see as a gift to yourself. And in a push to increase transparency, accountability, and reproducibility, several organizations, including over 500 scientific journals, funding agencies, and educational and research institutions in 3 continents, support and promote the use of protocols.io. Now, let me give you a taste of how the platform looks like and how its different functionalities allow you to do everything I've told you: organize and preserve your work, collaborate, save time, increase your reproducibility, impact, and credit. So protocols.io, the platform, has 3 main sections: the workspaces, which I have already mentioned, the file manager, and the editor. And I will explain in the next few slides how they relate to each other by using a simple cartoon. So the workspace is where everything happens. It is from this space that you create protocols, organize your work, and collaborate with others. The workspace has a folder that is organized by the file manager. And in the file manager, you can use the editor to create protocols. And during my explanation on what each of these sections does and how they relate to each other, I will be moving back and forth between them. So if you go to our website, what you see on the screen is a landing page at protocols.io/welcome. You can create an account if you have not done so already and log in. You can also log in using ORCID, Facebook, or Google. Once you start a session, the first step is to create your first workspace. The system will also ask if you want to invite anyone to join this new workspace, but this is not a compulsory action. Once in the workspace, you will have access to the file manager, which is now empty because this workspace is new. To the left, you have access to the workspace administration menu, and to create a new protocol, you select the new button to the right, and that will take you to the editor. Now, the file manager will eventually contain, display, and organize the protocols you have created in that specific workspace. The file manager supports any file type, not only the protocols created with the editor. You can bring Excel spreadsheets, PDF documents, and Word documents. It helps you archiving, auditing, and exporting because it can connect to Dropbox, OneDrive, and Google Drive, so you can move documents back and forth. And it has been designed with enterprise-grade security and backup functionality. The editor has detailed components, a granular editing history that allows any change to be reverted. It also allows concurrent editing by 2 or more collaborators, the same way 2 or more people can work simultaneously on a Google document. The protocol itself is written, as I mentioned before, in a step-by-step fashion, and different sections of the protocol can be coded in different colors. Now, going back to the workspace, this is a space for collaborations. You can invite anyone to join your workspace. It can be a student or postdoc in your own research lab, another faculty member within the same institution, or external collaborators. To invite collaborators, you go to the administration menu of the workspace, select Manage Members, and you can invite people to join your workspace. And this will grant them access to all the documents that you have stored in the file manager. You can make your workspace public, meaning it will be searchable and people can request to join, or you can make the workspace completely private, which is the default setting. You can also manage the privileges that members of the workspace will have and limit what they can do, such as inviting other members or sharing or deleting files from the file manager. Workspace members can comment on the protocols you have created and share with them, or ask questions using the comment functionality that I showed you before. Members of a workspace, if allowed, can also make changes to the existing protocols. And as I mentioned before, there is a detailed log of all implemented changes, which can be reverted if needed. Members of a workspace can also create their own protocols in the file manager, or make a fork or editable copy of an existing protocol and modify and optimize it according to their needs. The platform allows you to compare two versions of the same protocol. In this case, the protocol has 3 versions, and I'm going to be comparing version 1 to version 2, and I can see the changes highlighted in either red or green. And even if a member of your workspace leaves, because let's say a student graduates, the protocols will remain organized, up to date, and available in the file manager. You can also select to print your protocol or export it as a PDF to Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, or your computer. So just as an example, we're seeing the editor view of a private protocol that I have in my file manager. I can select more. I can select to export as a PDF to my computer or to any of these cloud-based drives. If I send it to my computer, I can see this is a long protocol. So it starts with an abstract, there is an introduction, some notes and reference, but eventually I'll get to the step-by-steps. And as I mentioned before, this is a printable document. So I could have a hard copy of the protocol at my bench while I'm doing my experiments. But you can also collaborate beyond your workspace by sharing your protocols with specific people via email or by publishing them. Another example, if I want to share a protocol, I can select it, share it, and then I can send it via email to a specific collaborator. This collaborator will not come to my workspace. I will be sending the document to them. And once I add a collaborator to this specific document, I can control what these collaborators can do with my document. I can make them editors or viewers only. Now, publishing a protocol will make it fully public, allowing anyone with an internet connection to search for it and to access it. It will also assign to the document a DOI, making it a permanent object, meaning that it's not editable anymore. So a published protocol cannot be edited any further. A published protocol with an assigned DOI is a citable object that can be referenced to in a paper, giving credit to the author's methodological work. The reference will be linked to the detailed protocol in protocols.io. So the reader will have access to the interactive, dynamic, live document, even if the paper has been published behind a paywall, because all of our content is open access. All of our public content is open access. So once a protocol is public or published, any reader can create their own fork or editable copy and modify it according to their own needs. Now, the platform has a memory that will link any forked protocol to the original one. In this way, the original authors maintain and earn credit. So for example, this is a protocol that is an optimized version of an original protocol published by somebody else. The platform tells us that the protocol has been forked from another protocol, which the reader can access by following the link. Therefore, all authors get credit for protocol creation and optimization, and the reader has access to the history of changes and evolution of the experimental protocol. And Protocols.io recently established a partnership with +One, whereby you can submit from the platform a novel protocol for peer review and eventual publication in this journal as a special article type called lab protocol. The published lab protocol will be bidirectionally linked to the interactive and dynamic protocol in Protocols.io. And the protocol receives additional badges that say that this protocol has been peer-reviewed and published in an index journal. Now, going back to the workspace, you can create multiple workspaces in your account depending on your research and teaching needs. Some of these workspaces could be private, some of these workspaces could be public. You can create different workspaces for different research projects or to teach different courses. And each workspace can have different members and contain different protocols and documents, giving you great flexibility for organization. Now, in the last 10 minutes or so, I would like to run a short demo because I am aware that most of you have already developed protocols using Word document and probably transform them into PDF. So you already have these digital objects. So how I want to teach in this short demo, how you could potentially, or how could you bring this protocol, how could you centralize these protocols in the platform? So I will show you 3 ways in which you can centralize your protocols in Protocols.io, starting from the easiest and quickest to the more sophisticated in point 3. And at the end, I will describe the import service, which I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation. So to do that, let me minimize my window. I'm going to open my hard drive, which I think I have a copy here. So this is my hard drive, and I have several protocols here in different formats. So I have a Word document, I have an Apple Pages, PDF, and text. And I can open any of these protocols. And you see that this is a digital version of a protocol. It has a name, authors, it has an abstract, and then sections containing several steps. The easiest way for me to centralize my protocols in Protocols.io is just to drag those documents and drop them in the file manager. So I can take my protocols and easily centralize them in the platform. The protocols have been copied. I can open my folder and I can see my protocols here. As I mentioned before, I can share these documents with specific colleagues beyond the workspace, and any member of my workspace will have access to these documents that I just dragged and dropped. However, because these are documents in their original format, They are not publishable, nor are they dynamic or interactive. I cannot publish any of these protocols. The simplest way to create a publishable protocol from any of these documents is to create an empty protocol with the editor and attach the protocol as one of these documents. So to do that, I go to the editor, I create a new protocol, I select the folder in which this protocol will be stored. Now, this is the editor. I can start by adding a title, which will make the protocol more searchable and discoverable. I can add an abstract, which will also make the protocol more searchable and discoverable. And instead of adding new steps, what I can do is go into the description tab. At the very bottom, there is a space for me to add an attachment. So I can take any protocol, drag it, attaching it to this empty protocol. Now, if I go to the viewer, I can see that my protocol has a title, has an abstract, and the protocol itself has been attached as a PDF. Because this is now a protocol, I can publish it, assigning to it a DOI and making a citable object. However, because the protocol doesn't have steps, because the protocol is attached as a PDF, the document is not interactive or dynamic. It doesn't accept comments. I cannot run it from my computer. So let's review the last way of creating now dynamic and interactive protocols out of an existing document. And this only applies to text-based documents like Word or Pages, but not to PDF. So if you want to do that, you first have to transform your PDFs into a Word document. So I'm going to go back to the editor. Instead of adding a new step, if it's not too small for you to read, it says here that if you have an existing protocol, you can insert steps from a text file. So I can select this option because I already have my protocol. I can open the protocol that I'm going to import. I can take the steps that I want to copy them, paste them in this window. And now the steps in the document have been transformed into the steps of the protocol. These steps belong to a very specific section. I can copy the title. I can insert a second section. And repeat the steps for the second section. There is an empty step here that I can remove. Now, very easily, I have transferred steps from my text file to my protocol. Now, if I go to the view, the viewer, I can see again, the title, the abstract, but now the protocol has steps, making it dynamic, and interactive. I can add comments. The comments are here. I can run it from the computer or tablet. I can create my own copy or fork. And as in the previous case, I can also publish this document. But now it's not just a PDF, it's a dynamic and interactive document. Now, I've told you that we offer an import service, which means that we have a team of editors that can create these interactive and dynamic protocols for you based on your PDFs or Word documents. Now, this service has a cost, but it's free for users at institutions with an institutional license. The information on how to send us your protocol for import comes in this slide. And as I mentioned before, I will be sharing both the recording and the slide deck with you. So in summary, I hope that I provided enough information to persuade you that by practicing open science and open methods with protocols.io, you can stay organized, collaborate efficiently, save time, increase your impact, and get credit for your method development work. Now, I know that I have said a lot, and you might need time to digest it. As I mentioned at the beginning, and I just repeated, the recording and the slides will be shared. We have also other resources of information that you can browse for further training. So if you go to protocols.io/webinars, you will find the list of regularly scheduled webinars organized by topic and by time zone, and you can sign up to whatever topic works for you according to your time zone. And these are the upcoming webinars that are listed. We also have a series of pre-recorded tutorials, and there is a link down here to request a one-to-one demo. These demos are free, and you will have the opportunity to discuss interactively with one of our specialists. You can share your screen, they can share their screen, and discuss any question you might have about the platform. And with that, I will open the floor for questions. Paul Furman is asking how soon the recording and slides will be available. Hopefully by the end of the day, but if not, tomorrow. Any other question? Okay, Danae Lee asks, could you remind us, if we were to publish a paper in a scientific journal, how our protocols.io page could be cited or linked? Would the authors of the protocol get credit? So the authors of the protocol would get credit by citing you, or sorry, by you citing them. If the protocol is not yours, so you can cite the DOI, and the authors of that protocol will receive credit. They will receive a citation. Now, the way that you can include your own protocol or anybody else's protocol, you can do it in two ways. You can include the link, the DOI, in the materials and method section, or in the reference list. So let me show you. Let me go back. So for example, in this case, the authors are citing their own protocol. The protocol has been published in protocols.io, it receives a DOI, and they use that DOI in materials and method section. And as you can see, that's pretty much what they write in method section. So they really summarize the materials and methods section by directing the reader to the detailed protocols in protocols.io. So here we're talking about an author citing their own paper, their own protocol. This is another case in which the authors cite again their own protocol in protocols.io, and they do it in the reference list. And finally, there is another example down here with the authors citing their own protocol in the materials and methods section, and the reader has access to the protocol by following this link. Did I answer your question, Denali? So somebody is asking, could you elaborate about the info about protocols.io being acquired by Springer Nature? So as of September, protocols.io is now part of Springer Nature, but we remain as an independent unit. So our mission and vision haven't changed. The open access repository remains fully free to use, but being part of a larger publisher that is committed to open access will give protocols.io more stability and resources to accomplish our mission, which is make science more reproducible by the reporting of detailed experimental methods. Again, the mission, the vision, and the commitment to open access hasn't changed. And the user is also asking about citability at Google Scholar. So Google Scholar is indexing gradually our public protocols. So if you publish in protocols.io, your protocols will be indexed by Google Scholar. And let me know if you have further questions regarding the and then Ariane Brown has a comment saying, what do you guys have in place to ensure protocol makers continually visit their protocol? I have used a protocol in protocols.io, but it hasn't been updated. And there are now new versions of products or kits referenced in that protocol. I think it is important to introduce some mechanism to ensure that there is update of the protocol or update of the kits. So we don't have a way to coerce authors to update their protocol if a new kit is available for what that protocol uses, but we hope that this will be community driven. So if you use that protocol that hasn't been updated, you can create your own fork, making it an editable copy, and you can update that protocol according to the new kit that now you use. And that fork can be published. So you could potentially earn credit by updating a protocol that was published by somebody else, but you creating your own updated fork. And what we hope is that the community is what they do, that they take protocols, update them if the authors haven't done it, and publish a new version. Not a new version, a new fork that is updated. And let me know, Ariane, if I responded to your question. So Shu Han asked, does published data analysis method on protocols.io affect publishing the same method in a journal later? It doesn't. So what we call publishing is different from what journals call publishing. We don't peer review the methods, as I was commenting in relationship to Ariane's question. We let the community engage with the protocol, and we outsource or we crowdsource the assessment. We are more akin to a preprint repository to a journal. So we don't peer review, and journals don't see publishing in protocols.io as a prior publication. And as I mentioned before, over 500 journals actually recommend deposition of the protocol in protocols.io, and that doesn't interfere with publication of the protocol itself as a methodological paper or as part of a larger research paper. So no, there is no conflict. Let me know, Shuhan, if I responded to your question. Does the platform allow, and then Kelia Karambisi asked, does the platform allow internet collaboration for people in the same company? Yes, and beyond the same company. So as I mentioned before, just to orient ourselves, this is my account in protocols.io, what you are seeing on the screen right now. These are all the workspaces to which I belong. Some of these were created by me. Some of these workspaces were created by somebody else, but I was invited as a member. And this is my own personal workspace. And assuming that I want to invite colleagues in my organization, it's very easy. I go to the administration menu, manage members, and then I can invite people within and beyond my organization by typing their email address here and adding them to my workspace. Now, for them to join your workspace, they will have to create an account in protocols.io. But as I mentioned before, creating an account is completely free. Once they are in my workspace, they will have access to all the documents that I have stored in the file manager of that workspace. And they will also be able to create their own documents in the file manager of that workspace to which they now belong. Any other questions? So in response to that question about whether I could elaborate on the acquisition by protocols.io, from protocols.io by Springer Nature, I'm going to add to the chat a link to a document that our president published in relationship to that acquisition. And that will give you more details and information. I'm going to stop the recording now in case somebody wants to ask a question of the record.